Hello, and welcome to Greet the Week. Today, I'm Mona Duncan, your moderator, and today our topic is going to be on perception. What does it mean to perceive something? Well, not really looking at that, but what our perceptions can lead us to. Put this on the full screen. Okay, so perception. Perception, quote, you tasted the water, I tasted the gift. And it is looking at the fact that we have multiple levels of perception. We have definitely a high and a low one. If we look at something on the low is information about a situation or an event, whereas a high level perception is where we are also looking at the value that it has to it, not just what it is, but the value and the fact that in our perception, we can see things differently. And so the story behind the you tasted the water, I tasted the gift was there was a group of people that was out in the desert. And I mean, it just looked like they were at their end of their journey.
Mhm.
And they were rescued, but the people that brought the rescue stuff to them did not have everything up to date. As a matter of fact, the water was hot and dry, and it was, it just didn't work so well. And one person was said, you're tasting the water, but I'm tasting the gift of the fact that there are people here to help us, and how that can really change. So, what is perception and what does it mean?
Yeah.
Perception, this is my definition, okay? My definition is that perception is the way you see something based on our life experiences to date, because we are looking at things and we are perceiving things and we are camping things in our brain. But then the thing of it is that our perception becomes our reality, only it may not be real. So it is looking at the fact that Dr. Glasser said the power of the picture is total. And that power of the picture is total. It's total based on the wheels of the behavior car. It includes every thought that we think, every feeling that we feel, every action that we take, as well as the physiology. And the power of that picture is total in our own being. So, definition. Uh, I gave you my definition that it is everything, it's the way we perceive, is everything that's happened to us from day one of our life to currently, and whether it is improving or whether it's not improving. I found three definitions in particular on Merriam Webster's dictionary. One is that perception is the result of perceiving. I think that's kind of neat that it's the result of what we perceived, of what we felt, of what we thought, of what we sensed. It also is a mental image. We know from choice theory and reality therapy the fact that it seems as though we think in pictures. We begin to see things. It may be cloudy, it may not be real clear, but it is perception is a mental image. Perception also is quick, acute, and an intuitive cognition. And again, that doesn't, it's quick, it's acute, it's intuitive. It's something we're seeing. It kind of goes hand in hand with our quality world pictures that we may not have a definite definition to it, but we can see it there. It's a cognition. It's something, it's a presence, it's a feeling, it's something that's over and above just what we see with our eyes. And so, just taking out the computer thesaurus here on my computer, the verbiages or the different words that could be used instead of perception was or is insight, awareness, acuity, discernment, observation, sensitivity, a view, an opinion, a picture. It's our slant on it, our assessment of it, our experience of it, the way we take it. So it shows the fact that perception is not like picking up a little purple block of post-it notes that is, just kind of has only one or two things that you could say about it. So our perception is multi-diversity. And yet, even with all of this, we rely on our senses. If I saw it, I saw it. If I heard it, I heard it. And so therefore we see it as being legitimate. So some more about our perspectives. You tasted the water, I tasted the gift. So even though it wasn't pristine, it wasn't the filtered water, but thank you for helping. Dr. Meg Blackburn Lucy, in her book, The Children of Now, made this comment. I would submit that normal is a perception, and that perception is part of our everyday illusion. To move away from illusion, our perceptions must change. And throughout this particular book, she really goes hand in hand with quality schools and a lot of the diagnosis that's given to children, and how maybe if we could taste the gift as opposed to the water, we may be able to see a lot of things in a different perspective. And then I think about the fact that our perspective, and having heard an encounter of a person who was flying an airplane, it was the father and the son, and they were flying, and it was a young son, and the father was the only one that knew how to actually navigate the plane, the airplane, the little. And anyway, all of a sudden, a storm came up. It was not predicted, and it was fierce. I mean, it just blocked out everything, and they were fearful. They could not see ahead. They could not look down to see what was going on below, that they maybe could land in a farmer's field or something. They could not see what was on the side of them. I mean, it was just completely the wind and the turmoil, the clouds that was coming in, they could not see. And so, even though they went maybe on a different step in that they looked on their instrument panel, because it was rooted in the psychic and in the physics of Albert Einstein. And so they were able to land beautifully. Now, not on the runway, but they were able to get down and they were able to be safe. And they certainly tasted the gift and appreciated it, even though they went through that horrific, and they still had some difficulties in getting back up in the air and going on to an actual landing spot. It was still to appreciating the fact what was the outcome. And it's also realizing that emotions follow our perception, but has a tendency to, unless until we know how to be more in control of and in charge of our emotions. And so we can do that by following the genius of choice theory in Dr. William Glasser, to learn how to not allow our emotions to lead. So let's just look a little bit more here on perceptions. So our feelings are largely based on what we can see and or what we can sense, or what we are sensing. The human condition has a tendency to lean toward negativity, that it's more like a I can't before it becomes an I can. And this may go back a whole lot to, earlier pilgrims and so forth, when they didn't know what the terrain was like, and they had that tendency to lean toward negativity. And unfortunately, I find that to be quite true in our world today. They have that negative slant toward it. But choice is always available. And it's something that maybe we have not yet perceived, the fact that we continually have the ability to change our mind, change our choices, to see things differently, to consider them differently, to value them in another way. And then to monitor our perceptions through the value filter, and looking at the value, at the way Dr. Glasser takes us through the filters. Just like a physical car has filters, so does our physical vehicle have filters. And one of it is to take those perceptions and run them through the valuing filter. What value is there? Uh, Going back and looking at the monitors that was on the plane, that was something to be thankful for. And the brain collects our sensory input and it corrects it, it holds it will pop it back up, we'll see it and think of it again. And the patterns, the more we kind of think the same thing and see the same thing and so forth, those patterns begin to assign meaning. And thus they create future expectations. So we have sensed something, and whether it was correct or incorrect, the more we begin to sense something like that, the more it becomes a pattern. And it begins to present itself again and again through future expectations. But it goes back up here to the fact of point number 3, or insight number 3 here, is that we always have a choice. It's always available. If nothing else, to at least think about it before you automatically go along with the perception itself. And that emotions follow perceptions, whether the perception was real or whether it was the illusion. The emotion does follow that perception. So let's go from being a spider to a human being, or just an example. The childhood fear of a spider ought not to control the adult response to a spider. Now, that doesn't mean it becomes your best friend. Doesn't mean that, that you don't shoo the spider away, or at least take it outside. But hopefully, the fear that was associated with it as a child can not be the same thing as an adult, that we can begin to make those choices and to test them out. Emotions have a tendency to fixate on the past, and it clouds the reality of now, because it's thinking, the human nature is to lean toward the negativity. And sometimes, you could be offered a pearl. Oh, a pearl. What a wonderful thing that is. It's inside an oyster. And a person could be guaranteed that you will find at least one pearl that will be of great worth and value and monetary gain, even. And here, all you have to do is crack these. There's at least one in there. It's a guarantee. But how many people, those oysters are not easy to crack. Those difficulties, those fixated emotions are not easy to break. And so it clouds the reality of what's going on now. So, how might you feel toward an individual? How might your feelings soften toward an individual if you begin to see them, begin to perceive them as being a human being that has struggles and fears? If you can realize that each person is doing the best they can. Now, of course, we need to evaluate that. Am I really doing the best I can? So maybe that's an evaluation for us too. And allow this doing the best I can to transform your emotions from frustration and anger to carry, to allow those perceptions to be changed from being completely negative to maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And then if it works for you and it works with you, see, you matter. Realizing that being fearful of these, that things take on a different mode. You matter and that you are enough. That whatever you need, the answers are within. It is more internal rather than external. Maybe seeing that suppose you open a drawer and a spider jumps out, and it's frightening. You want to take care of the spider or whatever. You may faint and fall out. You may scream and run out of the house, whatever. Anyway, eventually you go back in and you realize that, someone pranked you. That was a false spider. And so, well, the answers are within, and we can begin to see things in their reality as well as seeing them in their illusion. So, some acquisition of talents and change. When something happens again, you ever have, oh no, this is happening again, 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 whatever it is, happening again. Stop and ask yourself, what can I do now that I couldn't do then? What can I do now? How can I handle this now when I did not handle it more efficiently, when I did not handle it so good in the past? Consider the abilities at your disposal and use them. And in case you don't know what they are, here's just a few. It's your improved communication, the fact that you can enforce some boundaries, the fact that that there are outside resources available, the fact that there are some financial reserves somewhere. There's probably 50 cents put away somewhere that can help you, that there's reasoning capabilities, and that you do have your own personal power. So, regardless of another person's input, or regardless of your response to the situation or to that other person's input, you are self determining in your attitude as well as in your actions. And your attitude includes your thinking and your feeling. It includes all of that. So self evaluate your own adult response and be pleased with the emotional shift to a more mature perception. And here's another thing to acquiesce, and that is taking a basic intensive training through the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory, because it is absolutely life changing. I think of Michelangelo, who's credited with having said, I saw an angel in the stone and carved to set it free. So I am encouraging you to see the angel, to see the angelic being, to see the warrior, to see the one that, and begin to carve in your own stone to set yourself free. And on the advice of Paul J. Meyer, change is to interrupt yourself at the point of behavior, at the point of that negative behavior, at the point of that anger or that perception that really is an illusion, and deep down in your wisdom heart, you realize it is an illusion. Then change, interrupt yourself at that point of behavior so that you can rethink. Well, think you can do it? Well, I think you can. I appreciate your being here, and thanks for your input.